They've returned. The tents, the blue tarps, the silent encampments that rise overnight and disappear by sunrise. It's 2025, and the streets of America once again tell a truth our leaders pretend not to see. I pass by these fragile cities and ask myself, when did being poor start to look like a criminal act? With the new administration vowing to clean up the streets, the battle over homelessness grows darker, mixing mercy with control. This has moved far beyond politics. It's about who we become when those we overlook each day have nowhere else to turn. The truth may expose more about us than about them.
It's gonna be winter again, it's gonna get cold. I don't wanna be out here in this cold again. Last year was so terrible.
One, from housing first to treatment first. A shift in homeless policy.
We're going to be removing homeless encampments from all over our parks, our beautiful, beautiful parks, which now a lot of people can't walk on. They're very dirty, got a lot of problems.
Across the United States, the conversation about homelessness has shifted in a startling and uneasy direction. During his 2024 campaign, Donald Trump vowed to bring order back to America's streets. And now, in 2025, that vow has turned into government policy. But it's no longer about providing homes. It's about enforcing control.
There's supposed to be housing people here, and there's none.
The new doctrine, known as treatment first, turns the old housing first model completely on its head. Rather than giving shelter as a starting point for recovery, individuals must first agree to treatment, monitoring, and compliance. Trump's administration insists that America's homeless crisis isn't a housing failure, but a failure of discipline. They claim too many people willingly live on the streets, that addiction and mental illness have transformed cities into sprawling outdoor asylums. Yet when you stand on a street corner in Los Angeles and watch a man shivering beneath a torn blanket, is that truly a choice? Officials argue they're doing what's right, saving people from self-destruction. But to those surviving in the tents, it feels like something else, punishment disguised as compassion.
We've had money, but it goes towards the kids, right away. You know, kids need something, we get it. So we can't really necessarily buy things that could help us get out of the hole that we're in.
This concept didn't just appear overnight. It originated from the Heritage Foundation's Project 2025, a blueprint that redefines homelessness as a moral weakness rather than a societal collapse. For Trump, whose political return is rooted in restoring law and order, the approach fits him perfectly, like a suit of armor. Under this framework, money that once funded housing now goes toward compulsory rehabilitation centers and mental health facilities. And for anyone who refuses the program, the next knock on their tent door might not be a social worker, it might be the police. I've spoken with outreach workers who describe the transformation as disturbingly efficient. One told me softly, they no longer see human beings, only problems to be cleared away. But there's something deeper happening, a fear that homelessness itself has become infectious, that if left unchecked, it will consume our cities completely. Maybe that's why some people applaud when the tents disappear. Maybe it gives them back a sense of order. Still, I can't help asking myself, when a nation starts treating its most vulnerable people as dangers, who's the one that truly needs help? Two, the politics driving homeless policy. You could almost sense the change approaching, not like a sudden storm, but like tension quietly rising underground. By the time Trump reclaimed power in 2024, homelessness had evolved beyond a social concern. It had become a symbol. His campaign understood that perfectly. They turned it into a narrative, one built on fear, decline, and the loss of control. Drone footage at night showed endless rows of tents downtown, fires flickering, silhouettes moving, police sirens bouncing between walls. The message hit hard. America was no longer secure, and someone had to take it back. People didn't just see it, they absorbed it. Anxiety and resentment spread rapidly through suburbs and small towns alike. It stopped being only about the homeless. It became about what they stood for: chaos, addiction, and disorder. Everything society wanted to erase. Trump gave that fear a clear image and a vow: we will clean up our streets. He wasted no time fulfilling it. The pivotal moment came in June 2024, when the Supreme Court decided in Grants Pass v. Johnson that cities could outlaw camping on public property, even when shelters were full. That decision ignited the movement. Within months, city after city began implementing new bans. Some described them as safety reform. Others called them cleanups, but for those beneath the blue tarps, they felt like raids. Then came Executive Order 14321, signed on the 24th of July 2025, ending crime and disorder on America's streets. It incentivized cities to enforce anti-camping and loitering laws. It directed federal agencies to monitor repeat offenders. And it introduced something unprecedented: government-approved tent cities. Official: fenced compounds where homeless individuals would be transferred for treatment and regulation. The order also approved the creation of federally managed tent zones, temporary sites on federal land meant to house, treat, and reform the homeless population. In theory, these camps would offer clean shelters, medical care, and security. But in reality, they raised a deeper concern. What happens when a tent becomes the only shelter you're permitted to have? Trump's base applauded the idea as a practical fix. They claimed it was wiser to centralize and control the homeless in America rather than let them sprawl across city blocks. Meanwhile, opponents, including groups like the National Alliance to End Homelessness and the ACLU, denounced it as a humanitarian setback. They cautioned that it was essentially forced relocation and the criminalization of poverty. And as the months passed, their warnings proved all too accurate. Three, the rise of federally sanctioned tent cities. Drive across the nation today, and you'll witness a different America emerging, not through skyscrapers or innovation hubs, but in fenced fields lined with rows of uniform gray tents. These are the federally approved tent cities, the centerpiece of Trump's 2025 approach to homelessness. They appear tidy, regulated, and under strict surveillance, a striking contrast to the disorderly encampments that once crowded Los Angeles or San Francisco. At first glance, it all looks like progress. But if you remain behind those fences long enough, the illusion starts to fade. In Florida, the first experimental camp opened just outside Miami in January. 200 individuals were relocated overnight, some by choice, most by force. Inside the compound, residents receive meals, healthcare, and career guidance. But there's a condition, curfews, mandatory attendance, and police alerts for anyone who leaves without approval. One woman confided that it felt less like refuge and more like a rehab facility under watch. Utah took things further. In October, a vast homeless campus launched outside Salt Lake City, with capacity for over 1,300 people. Officials branded it as compassionate enforcement. The phrase caught on quickly, as though pairing those words could turn control into compassion. But compassion doesn't come with cameras. It doesn't come with razor wire. Then there's Washington, D.C. In March, the National Guard swept away more than 500 tents near Union Station. Most of the displaced were transferred to new federal camps at the city's edge. By summer, visible homeless encampments had fallen by nearly 50%. It seemed like success until you stopped to consider the cost. When I visited one of those compounds in late August, the quiet was haunting. Lines of identical tents stretched across dry ground. A sign by the gate read, "Restoration through Discipline." Inside, a man named Brian, a veteran in his 50s, told me softly, "They call this temporary, but when there's nowhere else to go, temporary begins to feel permanent." His words broke through the slogans and reports, because this isn't about ending homelessness. It's about containing it, pushing it aside so others don't have to see. Under Executive Order 14321, cities adhering to federal enforcement rules are rewarded with top-tier funding. Those that resist, even democratic strongholds like Los Angeles and San Francisco, risk losing it altogether. By August, Los Angeles had cleared over 1,000 tents from Skid Row, relocating many residents to a new government tent city beyond city limits. Leaders labeled it a humane compromise. Advocates called it punishment with polished edges. The reasoning is simple yet brutal: obey or vanish. For some, it feels like safety. For others, like surrender. Still, polls reveal that over half of Americans approve of these actions. Maybe it's fatigue. Maybe it's fear. Or maybe it's our shared instinct to look away when a problem feels too vast to solve. But as I walked away from that DC camp, the image that lingered wasn't the fences or the tents. It was Brian's steady gaze through the wire, asking the question no policy dares to face. When did progress start meaning how well we hide the people we've chosen not to save? Four, pointing fingers. The politics of homelessness. Every election cycle, the same show unfolds. Politicians take the stage, cast blame, and promise to solve homelessness as if it were a crack in the pavement rather than a human life. Democrats preach empathy and long-term reform. Republicans sound alarms about disorder and the need to restore control. Each camp knows its script by heart, each sure the other side is why the streets look the way they do. But when the lights fade and cameras stop rolling, the pledges vanish and the tents remain. From my view, homeless in America stopped being merely a humanitarian emergency long ago. It's turned into political theater. Cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco are brandished by conservatives as proof of progressive collapse. Meanwhile, progressives blame Republican states for neglecting the poor and mentally unstable. The debate goes back and forth endlessly, but the people in between never move a single step closer to relief. Last year, a policy analyst in Washington, D.C. said something that stayed with me. We study homelessness like it's numbers on a chart, but rarely do we speak to the ones living through it. She was right. Most choices are made in sealed rooms, far from the sidewalks where real lives unravel. You can't feel the cold air from inside a hearing room. You can't smell the wet concrete from a policy draft. Sometimes I question whether they even notice anymore. The faces beneath the overpasses, the still figures on the benches, or maybe we've all trained ourselves not to see, just so we can rest a little easier at night. Five, economic forces behind homelessness in America. Homelessness is the long shadow cast by an economy too proud of its own success. We hear stories of booming job growth, strong markets, and rising consumer confidence. Yet behind those headlines, a quieter truth unfolds. It's the story of paychecks that never stretch far enough, rents that climb faster than anyone can chase, and families slipping through the cracks one lost paycheck at a time. In cities from Seattle to Miami, I've met people who once believed they were secure. Workers with reliable incomes, solid credit, maybe even a little savings. Then came a pink slip, a medical bill, or a landlord's notice taped to the front door. And just like that, stability disappeared. For older Americans, especially veterans and retirees surviving on fixed incomes, it doesn't take much. One car breakdown, one illness, and the bottom drops out. It's a painful paradox, isn't it? We call this the land of opportunity, yet millions live one rent payment away from ruin. When people discuss the homeless in America, they picture tents and street corners. But the reality is, it often starts long before someone loses their home. It starts when the math stops making sense. Still, I've witnessed something in those facing this struggle, a quiet resilience that refuses to fade. A retired teacher in Phoenix who tutors children for free at a shelter. A construction worker in Detroit who sleeps in his truck, yet still sends money to his daughter's college. These small acts of perseverance remind me that even in suffering, there's strength. But empathy alone won't mend what's broken. It demands courage, the kind that rewrites zoning laws, restores neighborhoods, and sees housing not as charity, but as the cornerstone of our humanity. Six, community efforts and innovative solutions. Despite all the political chaos and empty promises, I've witnessed small flashes of hope that prove this country still has a pulse. Across America, everyday people are doing what government systems rarely manage, building circles of compassion, one simple act of kindness at a time. In Texas, there's a place known as Community First Village, a neighborhood of tiny homes created for those who spent years living without one. It's more than shelter, it's a community. Residents tend gardens together, share meals beneath hanging lights, and rediscover meaning in ordinary routines. In Seattle, mobile shower vans roam the streets, offering more than cleanliness, they offer dignity. And in New York, public libraries now employ social workers, quietly guiding homeless visitors towards shelter and a fresh start. These projects aren't grand or flashy. They don't come with campaign slogans or national spotlights. But they succeed because they recognize people first, not problems. They remind us that the strongest solutions rarely begin in Washington. They begin on a front porch, in a church hall, or in a van where someone simply chose to care. I've come to see this as the true revolution, the one that doesn't need applause. While politicians argue over terms and budgets, local communities are quietly piecing lives back together from the ground up. They're proving that empathy and creativity still belong to citizens, not bureaucracy. Maybe that's where our real future starts, not in policies or executive signatures, but in the courage of neighbors who refuse to look away. Seven, the changes needed to end homelessness. If the last few years have revealed anything, it's that homelessness won't vanish through charity drives or seasonal donations. Compassion counts, but what we truly need now is bravery. Lasting change requires transforming the systems that trap people, housing, healthcare, wages, and the very metrics we use to define national success. We must reimagine how our cities expand. Affordable housing can't remain an afterthought. It must be part of the blueprint from day one. We need rent laws that protect, not punish. We need mental health care that follows people long enough to matter, not programs that vanish after a few visits. And we need jobs that restore pride, not just keep people afloat. Yet beyond plans and policy lies something deeper, a moral awakening. For too long, we've treated homelessness as another person's downfall, something that happens to them. But the truth is, it's all of us. It's our own reflection staring back from the sidewalks of every American city. Sometimes I think about what the Founding Fathers would say if they stood on the Capitol steps today and saw tent cities stretching endlessly into the distance. Would they still call this the land of liberty? Or would they see a country that's forgotten the balance between freedom and compassion? We can't heal what we refuse to acknowledge. And maybe that's where the true work starts, not in hiding the issue, but in facing it together at last. Conclusion. As this video comes to a close, I keep reflecting on what this crisis truly reveals about us, not just as a nation, but as human beings. Homelessness isn't only about tents, shelters, or statistics. It's about what unfolds when a society forgets to care for its own. Behind every tarp and makeshift sign is a story that could have been ours. A lost job, a sudden illness, a misstep, a life never given a chance to recover. When we discuss homeless in America, we often focus on numbers, but numbers don't feel cold nights or empty stomachs. People do. They carry memories, regrets, and hopes that refuse to fade. Yet somewhere along the way, we stop seeing them as part of our shared humanity. We erected walls of judgment where bridges of compassion should have stood. The reality is, homelessness is not merely the failure of housing policy, it's the failure of human connection. People lose homes, yes, but they also lose belonging, trust, and the comfort of being recognized. Solving this isn't just about building more units or expanding programs. It's about restoring the social fabric that gives those efforts meaning. Real change begins the moment we truly see, not glance, not pity, but see. Because the line between safety and hardship is thinner than most of us care to admit. So the next time you pass someone sitting alone on a sidewalk, don't look away. Let that instant remind you that the strength of a nation isn't measured by how it treats the powerful, but by how it lifts the forgotten. Homelessness in America is more than a crisis. It's a question, and the answer will reveal who we truly are. This video was made to educate, raise awareness, and encourage reflection, to inspire understanding, not division, and to remind us that empathy remains the most powerful agent of change.